Mogul skiing is definitely one of our favourite sports that we love talking about here on Off the Podium, and it's such a pleasure to be able to speak to another Olympic mogul skier, two-time Olympian from Sochi and in Beijing, from the great country of Australia. I think most people would have heard of it here on Off the Podium. It's a pleasure to welcome Taylah O'Neill to the show. Taylah, first of all, welcome to Off the Podium. It's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much. It's really great to be here.
It's exciting, Moguls. I love it. And I'm always sad that my co-host is never available when I do these because he's Mr. Moguls. He is weirdly obsessed with Moguls. Not weirdly. It's not a weird thing. People can be obsessed with it. But don't worry. He's filled me in on some things that I can ask you today and got some questions and everything. But I love your journey into the sport. I believe you started very young skiing and then ultimately chose moguls as your path that you took on there. But what was it about skiing when you were, I believe, two that sort of, got you a couple of pieces of wood on your feet and kind of hit the snow?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, it's just a family sport. So my parents grew up skiing as well and my older siblings. And yeah, once I got into it, I loved it. I remember I even broke my arm when I was 2 and I was still out there trying to ski with a broken arm because
wow,
I just wanted to be on snow. And yeah, I mean, just from the get-go, it was something I really loved doing, loved being in the mountains, sliding around and yeah, so we just kept going, got into competitions and I was not bad at them. So
kind of went from there.
Yeah.
Which, when it came to the ultimate decision to choose mogul, so when you first start skiing and you're kind of just enjoying it at that point, when you are realizing things like competitions exist as a child, were you trying your hand at things like alpine or maybe even cross country as well as freestyle skiing as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I started off in just a bit of everything at interschools. So interschools is a race down in Australia where all the different school groups kind of compete against each other. So I started that in 2001 with my school and I did a bit of everything. So we did alpine, moguls and cross-country skiing, which was really great. I probably preferred moguls the most. I just thought it was really exciting and fun with the jump and the turns and the speed element. And then by the time I was about 8 years old, I joined the Perisher Winter Sports Club where we did have a go at everything. So we did a bit of slopestyle, a bit of free ride, a bit of alpine, but the majority of my group were very into mogul skiing. So I was with Matt Graham and Nicole Parks, who are also Australian Olympians. So they were in my group as well. And we all kind of veered towards the moguls. So we did that the most because all of us loved it so much.
I love hearing about people loving moguls because I look at moguls and I see giant bumps and I go, that's going to hurt your bloody knees. And I think, where is the fun in that? But everybody we get on the show who does moguls says it's the most amazing thing ever and they love it. So can you try and sell it in terms of the fact that, I mean, obviously we know you've had some issues with your knees, we'll get to that, but like the knee factor, the bumps, like, I mean, it's much more to it than it's just going to hurt, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think once you get the technique right, which is when you start at a young age, you're kind of a bit more fearless. You're ready to just give anything a crack and you bounce a little bit easier if you crash. So once you get that technique right, it actually feels really good. I mean, it doesn't feel too bad. It's just when things go wrong, that's when it feels bad, which can happen and it happens quite often, but you're kind of chasing that feeling of how good it could be the whole time. And I just, I wanted to keep up with the boys. The boys were into it. They're doing big tricks. And I was like, I reckon that looks pretty cool. I reckon I can give that a go. So, yeah.
Which is the unique aspect of moguls too, is the mix of speed, technique, and sort of the artistic side of things, which, you look at aerial skiing, yeah, there's a speed element at the top, but it's more about the tricks and the big air and things like that. But I mean, when you are learning as a child, are you being taught more about the speed, the technique, like the aerobatic section of it? Like, is there one that as a child you've got to nail before you can focus on the next aspect?
Not so much. I think as a kid, you're just trying to give everything a go. With the bumps, obviously there is a technique element to it. So once you get that technique and once you build up some strength, then you can go faster. So the speed comes with your technique. If you're skiing a bit more direct, if you have stronger muscles, you're able to pick up that speed, and that just comes with experience. And then with the tricks, honestly, it starts off with just giving it a go. So like a 360. I did my first one at 8 years old. I just chucked it. Chucked it off the bump. My brother dared me to, and I was like, yeah, I got this. And and then once you get older, you start hitting the water ramps and practicing those bigger tricks like a backflip and a D-spin. So again, that's just comes with experience and practice.
Given you're from a skiing family, I'm not sure how the parents feel when you choose moguls out of all the disciplines. I mean, are they sort of like, I'm like, no, I do cross country. That's nice, safe and simple. You know, you're not going to hurt yourself too much. And moguls, like, that's a bit dangerous. Like, did they have any concerns that that's where you end up going towards?
No, my family's a pretty big mogul family. So my older brother and my older sister did it when I was young. So there's a pretty big gap. I'm one of 5 and my older sister is 20 years older than me. So there's a pretty big gap there. But they loved it. They were into moguls and a bit of free ride, big air as well. And my dad loved the sport as well. Loves going through the bumps, just the free bumps on the side of the hill and jumping off jumps. So I think he's also into ski ballet, which, you know, that doesn't really exist now, but he still tries to pull out his tricks on snow, which is pretty funny. He thinks he's pretty cool. But yeah, I think we're very much a mogul family. So they weren't too concerned.
I'm glad I get excited whenever I hear the word ski ballet, because that seriously is a sport that needs to come back. I'm so sad that was just a demonstration sport. I mean, does anyone in Australia do it at all, Taylor? Is there like 2 or 3 people or anybody?
Like, they do it for fun. My dad still reckons they should bring back a master's program. He went into a master's alpine competition the other day and he's like, oh, I want a master's ski ballet. I was like, oh,
yeah,
might be the only one in it. But yeah, I'm not sure. I think people just do it for fun. They're just out there giving it a crack, but it's not a real serious sport.
we had Deidre Dione, Canadian aerial skier. She had done it. She had mentioned that was part of her sort of growing up with it. And it's fascinating to watch. I mean, we're about to see breaking in the Summer Olympics. So, I mean, you know, ski ballet, you could sort of compare the two in a weird way, but every time a Winter Olympics comes around, somebody shares the footage of ski ballet, and it's just like, this is insane, this is incredible. I'm with you, Dad, bring it back.
Yeah, it's a wild sport, but it's pretty cool. It's very old school, but yeah, if you can do it, why not give it a crack?
Exactly. Were you sporty in other sort of pursuits as well, like sort of in, you know, summer, were you playing lots of other sports and kind of you know, keeping active all the time as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I was always very much skiing focused, but at school I did diving and I did gymnastics. So I did that more just for fun. It definitely helped with the acrobatic side of skiing, but it was always just kind of another sport. Skiing was my focus always.
Now, I've got a 2-part question for this one, because I love this story that you experienced the 2006 Winter Olympics, which so many questions about that. But before you went to those Olympics as a spectator, had you grown up watching the Olympics and combining that with the skiing? Was this the ultimate goal? You were sort of growing up with the aim to become an Olympian?
Yeah, definitely. So I started Winter Sports Club when I was 8. So it was 2003. So just after the '02 games. And yeah, we knew some of the mogul skiers who were aiming for those games, like Manuela Berchtold and Dale Begg-Smith. They were around the mountain and we saw them skiing. And leading into Torino, I was like, this seems pretty cool. By year 5, I kind of was, you know what, I think I want to do this. I want to go to the games. And then once we went there and I experienced it, I was like, yeah, this is pretty sick. Like, I want to be up there and pushing out of that gate and doing it as well. So I think I was really lucky that my family, you know, got to experience that and I got to go over there and watch the games. It was very cool. Very, very cool.
Well, you mentioned the name that I was going to bring up, the excitement machine that is Mr. Dale Begg-Smith. We are very fond of him here on the show. Yeah. I mean, to be there, to see him create history, to win that, what was that like? And can you give us any Dale stories? Can you know, help us with the enigma that is Mr. Begg-Smith? Because we have heard so many on this show that nothing more sells him as an absolute legend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So it was very exciting watching him win that gold medal. I think as Australians, we're like, that's pretty sick. Like, we come from a summer country and we've just gone out there and gotten that gold. And I remember we didn't have tickets to go to the medal ceremony. And my parents and my family, we just like were at the medal ceremony outside the gates, just like trying to find tickets. And we managed to scramble together enough tickets to go in and watch him collect his gold medal, which was actually really sick to watch. And yeah, I mean, Dale's epic. We got to ski with him a lot growing up. He was on the course with us, which was always really inspiring to watch and see as a kid growing up. I think that's the one good thing about mogul skiing is, you know, you can have the base level, the development athletes who are just starting out in the sport on the same course as those, gold medalists in the sport, which is really, really good for the development of those athletes and bringing them up in the sport, to see just how we train and how it's done, so they can try and aim to be like that as well and aspire to be an Olympian one day as well. So I think that was really good. He definitely took my teammate Matt Graham under his wing and helped him through his early career, which was really great to see. And now Matt's a silver medalist himself, which is incredible. But yeah, he's always just on the course, having a great time, always joking around as well. You'd expect him to be quite serious, but if you caught him on the chairlift, he was always up for a joke and just mucking around, which was really great.
I like to hear that. We need to hear that about him, because he's such an enigma. But like the thing that like always amazes me, no matter who we get on to talk about him, jokes aside, like he just seems like he has done so much for this sport. I mean, we've had Britt on a couple of times. She's talked about that. Recently spoke to Brody about him and everything along the lines with that too. And the thing I think a lot of people forget is that he was our third ever winter gold medalist. He's our equal most successful winter gold medalist alongside of Tora. Yeah. And just what has happened in the sport of moguls for Australia since Dale won in 2006, with everything that's come with it. You mentioned Matt, obviously Jakara recently, Britt's, success on the world stage, yours, everyone's, like it's been insane. So, I mean, you talk about influential figures in one sport in Australia, it's hard to look by Dale Begg-Smith.
Yeah, 100%. He's done a lot for the sport in Australia. It probably wouldn't be where it is today without him. So I think we're all very grateful. And yeah, I mean, look at our team now is we had the past two Olympics, we had all 8 spots for Australian mogul skiing filled, which is incredible, because before that we didn't have too many people in the sport at the games. So it's been really, really great.
Did you ever get invited to his private island? And can you confirm that he has a private island?
I'm not sure. I haven't been invited, but I'm not too sure about that.
Which I'm glad to see that because obviously he texted Cooper after Beijing. So like that made the news. It's like, he's alive. He's out there. There he is. So like, I mean, I don't know if there's any other Dale sightings. Is this kind of just like you go to an event one time? Oh, Dale's here. There you are. I haven't seen you in 5 years. How's it going?
I think that's across the board though. Any athlete, after you finish up the sport, you still want to be involved. You still turn up to some events, but I guess life goes on and you need to go do some other things. So I guess that's what he's doing now.
We're going to get to the bottom of this island thing. I know we are. One day, somebody's just going to be like, yeah, absolutely. We'll get Matt on. Oh, yeah, he's got an island. I was there last week. It happens that way. Obviously, after sort of experiencing that, though, you make your debut on the World Cup in 2010. You start to make a name for yourself out there on the world stage a little bit. Sort of once you got in the zone, you were competing internationally, do you set your targets on 2014, 2018? Like, do you kind of give yourself a target of these are the Olympics I'm going to go towards?
Yeah, for sure. So 2014 was always my goal. We were all very lucky to have our first World Cup in 2010, just ahead of the Vancouver Games, where Britt managed to qualify, which was incredible because we were so young at the time.
15, wasn't she? 15?
Yeah. So 15. So that was insane to watch. It was really incredible to watch Britt up there at such a young age, and knowing that, I compete against her and stuff was really, really cool to see. And definitely seeing her in the gate in Vancouver pushed me more, because I was like, yeah, that's where I want to be as well. Like, definitely motivated me. And so yeah, 2014 was the goal, and I was lucky enough that I did qualify and make that games and was able to represent Australia at that games, which was insane. And yeah, I mean, 2018 was the goal too, and I wanted to go to 3 Olympics, but unfortunately that didn't go to plan. But just to represent Australia too was pretty insane.
5th at the Junior World Champs in 2012, working your way up towards it. But I mean, how important are Junior World Championships? It's not a question we really ask too much here on the show when it comes to that, but I can imagine that, getting you out there, high level competition, getting used to formats and things like that. But I mean, how important are they, and how is it to finish 5th at a Junior World Championship?
Yeah, so Junior Worlds we don't generally compete at as in Australia. I think we don't have too many competition experiences compared to people in Europe and America. They just do competition after competition after competition. But as a kid, we only had Australian Nationals and A-Bomb and inter-schools, and those were the only events we skied in. So I think having competition experience is definitely a skill in itself. It's not just about training and who can be out there, but actually being able to, you know, put down run after run and continue to improve over those runs is something you need to learn, and dealing with the nerves. So that year I was in year 12 and my teammate Brody was going to go and compete at Junior Worlds, and my parents were like, hey, like maybe we should do that as well, give it a whirl. And we went over there, competed. Coming fifth was pretty cool. Obviously you always want a little bit better, but it was really nice to be out there with some of the best athletes in the world at that young age group and be able to compete alongside them for another competition.
At the same year, the first ever Winter Youth Olympics were around. Was that an option? Is that something that kind of you can either qualify towards or be selected for, or not quite at that stage? No,
so Youth Olympics, there's no mogul skiing in Youth Olympics. So, yeah, we weren't able to compete at that, but hopefully it's on the agenda soon. That would be really good. But yeah.
Damn. How is that like, you know, you'd think that would be a standard sort of event that you would have there, right? So, you know, it's weird.
Yeah, I'm not really sure why it's not on the program, but I mean, hopefully we can, try and get it on there, because I think that would be a really good experience for young kids as well.
Because we always find, particularly again with the winter athletes in terms of multi-sport events, you know, summer athletes are generally a bit more sport for choice when they've got Commonwealth Games and things like that. But generally for winter athletes, there's really none unless you're sort of Canadian, you got a Canada Games, or sort of, you know, there's some other games in some other countries. But so for like a Youth Olympics, we found a lot of our guests who have gone to Youth Olympics. It's a great chance for the multi-sport aspect, but even just the Olympic rehearsal too, because obviously not quite as serious and strict as a full Olympics, but it's still got enough there to kind of train you ahead of an Olympic Games.
Yeah, I think it's a really good stepping stone, definitely. You look at athletes like Emily Arthur, went on to compete at the Olympics as well. Josie Baff as well has gone on to compete at the Olympics. So yeah, it's definitely a great stepping stone for athletes. And if you can go to that and then go on to the games, it's pretty sick. But yeah, I mean, for mogul skiing, we do have a lot of competitions out there. We can travel overseas and do the NORAM tour. We can do the Europa Cup tour. We can compete at the US selections, the Canadian selections. We're able to compete in those events. So if you have the opportunity to do that, I think it's a really, really wise decision to go and just try and get into as many events as you can as a kid, and learn the process and learn to deal with those nerves and just how competition runs.
And it's always a balancing act, I can imagine, too, about working out what's best for your career in terms of experience, but also when you're getting closer to an Olympics, the points, the all-important points to qualify and the finishing places. So do you constantly just sit and look at a calendar and go, okay, NORAMs, Europa Cup, World Cups, and kind of talk that over with your coaches and everything about what would be best for you in that season?
Usually the coaches kind of have more of a direction, whereas we don't, I mean, we get a say if we want to go or not, but they generally know best. And once you're on the World Cup tour, you're just doing the World Cup tour. But that stepping stone to get to the World Cup tour, you need to do the NORAMs, you need to do US selections, you need to get some results. And once you're getting those results, that's how you qualify in the Australian system. So yeah, I mean, if you're good enough and you're training well and you're showing that you can compete at that level, then you'll get entered into those competitions and you'll be able to start building up, you know, those results and just getting into the different teams and working your way up in the kind of system.
Yeah. Do you ever get then the Canadians or the Americans will come to the Australian trials? Like does Mikhail or the deferred point sisters all of a sudden go, yeah, let's go to the Australian trials. They're stealing our spots at our bloody trial, so let's do it to them.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of internationals at the Australian Nationals this week. We generally have, you know, the Canadian team out here. We've had the US team out here. We have the French team out here. This year, not all of them came, but we've had Mikkel at the top of our Australian Nationals podium multiple times, and down at ABOM as well. But I think, I mean, at the end of the day, you can still see who the top Australian is. It doesn't really matter if there's a Canadian ahead of you. It's still your top Australian at the Australian Nationals. So they do an overall Australian podium, which is really good. But I think it's good having that extra competition because, I mean, you might be the best in Australia, but there's still the people overseas that you then need to go and try and beat. So It's a nice kind of, you know, perspective and showing what you need to do to then be the best is having them on the course. And it's really nice to see like what they're doing, how they're training. And as a kid, it's really exciting to see that as well as you're progressing through the sport.
How many moguls hills do we have in Australia? I mean, what, Perisher, Mount Buller? Like, I mean, is there only a couple, basically?
Yeah, not many. So we have Topper's Dream, which is the best course in Australia, definitely, and one of the best courses in the world. We have Mount Buller at Chamois, so it's a bit of an easier course, but it's a really good development course for the kids. Then we have Mogul Mats back at Perisher, which again is for us, it's more of like a training, early season training course, but for the younger kids, it's a good place to develop their skills. Which,
with the Jeff Henke Centre, obviously, can you ever, I guess, translate bumps onto dry land? Is that ever a thing that you can kind of do, like at a facility, or is that too difficult to create?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit difficult to create. I probably wouldn't want to ski moguls on plastic. It would be a little bit terrifying. You definitely wouldn't want to fall over, and you probably wouldn't push yourself to the limit where you then develop better skills. You kind of need to get rid of that fear and go faster. Whereas I think on plastic, I would definitely be skiing very slow and conservative just so I wouldn't fall over. I can imagine, yes. But we do brassards, the trampoline drill, which is probably the most relevant training that we do for mogul skiing. And then we have the water ramps, which definitely helps your aerial ability.
Which I always love hearing about, just the wetness. Because like I'm somebody who doesn't like chafing and being uncomfortable, Taylah. So I can imagine when you're constantly landing in water and you're wet all the frickin' time, even if you dry off quickly in that Brisbane heat. But I mean, you got to get used to things like that pretty quickly. I can imagine knowing you're hitting the water however many times in a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we grew up doing water ramp. We had a facility out at Lilydale in Victoria, and we're very lucky to have that facility up in Brisbane now. It's incredible. It's so nice to jump there and to practice our tricks and get better. But yeah, you definitely get used to it. You know, it's part of the sport, so you just have to do it. And I mean, we do about 30 jumps a day and trudging back up the stairs in all your gear. But if it means you can get that little bit better, it's worth it.
30. Wow, that's insane. Absolutely insane. Sochi, I believe you get that nod that you're there barely a couple of weeks beforehand, which is obviously a common thing with a lot of winter athletes. But for your first games, and I can imagine sort of that whole lead up there, I mean, what was that season like beforehand? And did you kind of have a feeling that you were on path, or was it until you got that phone call, email, carrier pigeon, whatever it was, that you're like, boom, this is it, finally, I've made it to an Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, it was an up and down season. I didn't quite ski how I wanted to leading into the games, but I did enough to qualify, which was good. And yeah, I mean, you know that you're in, like you can follow the results, you can follow where you're at in the standings, but until you get that letter, it's not real. So you're like, I just need to get that letter, get that, stamp of approval, I'm going. And once you get that, you're like, holy crap, okay, I did it, I'm in. And then especially once you land in the country where the Olympics is being held, you're like, cool, I'm here. This is it. But it was very exciting. I remember we knew the letters were coming that day, and I was just talking to my older sister, and we were just like I was just trying to distract myself, and like we're sending just different songs to each other. And then the letter came through on email, and I was in the house with Britt, Nicole, and myself. And I think we're all pretty excited, especially because we grew up skiing together. So to be able to go to games together, it was pretty cool.
And I can imagine that's something you print out and frame and kind of have that as a nice little souvenir after all these years.
Yeah, definitely. Along with a lot of the memorabilia you get from the games, it's definitely one of the most exciting parts is getting that official letter.
And given that it's so close, though, to an Olympics, like I'm sure you have that moment of celebration, you know, however long it takes, but you've got to switch focus straight away. Like, it's not like you can take a week off to go on the town and get pissed and party, is it? Like, you just basically got to go, all right, cool, Olympics, all right, better get ready, because you don't want to go to an Olympics and just be like, oh, I'm here, whatever. You want to compete, you want to do your best.
Yeah, for sure. There's a reason you're going. No one wants to go to the games and, just be there to participate, I don't think. It's definitely not something that I wanted to do ever. So, we're usually at an Olympic training camp. So just before the games, we go to a specific mountain and just fine tune everything, get everything ready to go, all of your skills and all of the aspects of the course, and get your run up to scratch and ready to roll after the competition, the World Cup tour. So it's at that point that you get the letter. So you're kind of at the Olympic training camp. You're like, I'm here, but yeah, you just have to go back out and keep trying to get that little bit better. So on the day you can perform your best.
And how is it then? I mean, you've grown up with, as you said, Nicole and Britt, but to have Britt who's got that experience then, I mean, how important is it to have a teammate who's been there and can maybe sit you both down and be like, okay, this is what the village is like. This is what the media attention's going to bring. You know, all those little things that an Olympics bring that you perhaps don't experience on the World Cup tour.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really nice to have Britt there. I think she helped kind of level us out and not we weren't too overexcited or going too crazy. She was just like, you know, this is what it is. This is the media was probably the biggest aspect that was different to a normal World Cup, having the cameras everywhere, having people wanting to interview you. You don't usually get that at a World Cup. So that was really nice to have her there. And I think for her, it was nice to have some teammates as well because she was the only girl in Vancouver. So I think she was pretty happy to have us there as well. So we kind of complemented each other, which was nice.
I've got to ask the question with Dale then, of course. I mean, obviously he's there as well. I mean, does he bring something given that, you know, he's been to 2 and he's won 2 medals? Like, I mean, does he also help out with that situation?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, having someone there who's had the experience, but not only the experience has been at the top of the board, which is pretty insane. It was really nice to have him there. And then also my other teammates, so Matt Graham, Brodie Summers, Sam Hall. It was a really nice team to be a part of. And I was really grateful that I was able to be a part of that.
Do you have a moment? We love this question on the show, but that you realize you're an Olympian. Is it the letter? Is it, arriving in Sochi? Is it on the top of the hill, the closing ceremony? Like, does some moment hit you where it's like, I'm an Olympian right now?
I mean, you're not technically, like, according to the book, you're not technically an Olympian unless you push out the gate. Obviously, you have your own version of that. I think once you're going, that's pretty sick. I mean, you can still say you've been to an Olympics, but probably pushing out that gate. Once I got to the bottom, I was like, I did it. Sweet. Like, I'm here, but wanted to improve my run because it wasn't the best run. And I was like, you can do better than that. But it was a nice feeling. I had all my family at the bottom of the course. I went over to them and they were all very excited to watch me ski. And of course, we have the qualification day 1. We just do 1 run. And then the next day we have the qualification 2 and finals. So you had that moment to kind of, you know, savor the moment and really experience it and get excited, and then you just had to go home, refocus, and get ready for the next day. But you know, the nerves are out of the way by then, and you're like, okay, tick that box. Not really a box, pretty exciting box, but ticked. I'm an Olympian. That's sick. And now, qualification 2. Let's get this done and let's do a good performance.
Because that's the insane thing about your event is the fact that, as you said, qualification for the opening ceremony, and then your finals the day after the opening ceremony. So it's kind of like you're there, you're done, boom, that's it. I can basically sit around for the next 15 days and enjoy the atmosphere. But is that something that you prefer when it comes to a competition like that? How would you feel if it was the opposite? Like you were on the last day and you had to sit around for 14 days waiting. Were you glad it was sort of over and done with so you could experience everything else outside of the competition?
Yeah, I mean, it's great that we're finished early. The one downside is that we can't go to an opening ceremony. That's one thing that we do miss out on as mogul athletes. But, I mean, if we're at the end of the games, we probably would miss out on the opening ceremony anyway because we'd just be at a training camp and come in halfway through the games and then do our event. So I think wherever you are we're pretty used to competing. We do a lot of it. We're pretty used to the lead up to competition. So even though it's the Olympics, I feel like just wherever you are in that 2-week period, you just need to stay focused on your event. And once it's done, you can then go and watch other events, which is a great part of the game. You can go watch everyone else compete. But then you can just relax and enjoy the rest of the games.
And a very unique games in Russia, obviously. Mm-hmm. How was your experience there in Russia and your family? Because as we learn, it's generally the families are having the more interesting experiences because you're obviously in a bit of a bubble as an athlete. So, I mean, any fun stories that came from Russia?
Yeah, I mean, I stayed in the village the whole time. It was a great games. I really enjoyed it. It was a place I'd been to once. I went to the test event the year before, but Russia was not somewhere that was a regular location on the World Cup tour or anything back then. So I hadn't really experienced it, but my family definitely enjoyed the full Russia experience. They went to St. Petersburg and Moscow and went everywhere. And I just stayed at the Olympic Village, but I wouldn't change it. I think it was pretty cool games to go to.
Did you then set yourself a target of, I need to go see some hockey, I need to go see the aerials, I need to go see, luge? Like, I mean, do you kind of just make the most of those remaining days to see whatever you can?
Yeah, 100%. So me and my teammate Sam Hall, so his wife is a figure skater. And so me and him, my sister was a figure skater. So I quite like watching it as well. And we went down and watched the figure skating together, and we got tickets to the the qualification, and then for the short program, and then for the long program we didn't get tickets for that, but we somehow managed to convince the people at the door that we were a figure skating pair. we got in, which was great. So we got to watch the long program as well. We actually sat with all the athletes, which was kind of funny, but yeah, that was pretty sick. The boys got to watch the hockey. I didn't get tickets to that, but they were able to go and watch that. I think it was Canada versus America, which would have been epic to watch. We still went out, watched Scotty James. We watched Lydia, Dave Morris, Tora. We watched everybody out at their respective events, and it was really great to be part of the crowd and cheering on the Australians.
I just really hope that they don't then ask you to actually go compete on the ice. like, hey, guy, you're a pair. Like, you're up, Australia. Come on, off your pop. Like, there you go.
Not sure how that would go. But it was pretty funny. We got in there, so that was great.
The event itself, obviously, for you mentioned you weren't the first run, not the best, but then the second run, you do enough to get through to the final, and then ultimately, don't make it past that point. But 16th in your first Olympics, I know your sort of goal you set yourself was to be top 20. Of course, you want to go on to win the gold. You're an athlete. It's only natural. But, I mean, reflecting on that, I mean, how do you look back now, sort of these years later, about your performance? Satisfied, or do you think there was a little bit more that could have been done to go a little bit further?
100%. There was definitely more that could have been done. I think my finals run was my worst run on the course. I had a bit of a mistake out of the top air, which straight away I got to the bottom. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I pretty much almost fell out of top air, which was super annoying. But and I knew, like, my training run before finals, I got out of the top air it was actually probably my best run on the course. I was like, oh, why couldn't I have just repeated that? Like, it's so annoying. But I mean, I was pretty excited. Like, I think you need to put it in perspective sometimes and look at your performance leading into the games. And you can't expect, say, I was coming, like, my best result leading into the games, I think, was like an 18th. So you can't expect to get to the games and win gold. I mean, obviously that's the goal, and that's what you want. And that's what you're always working towards. But if you look at the bigger picture, I'm not going to all of a sudden get to the games and be on the podium if my best result leading in was an 18th. So that's why I set myself that top 20 goal. It was my first games. I wanted to compete well, but, it was also a stepping stone to my next Olympics. So I was pretty stoked on the 16th. Obviously, I wish I competed better in that final run, and I would have been up a little bit more, but it is what it is. And I still, top 16 at my first games I was pretty happy with that.
I think that sounds pretty good. You get introduced as always a top 20 athlete in Olympic Games. So that, that's a nice little ring to it. 6 months later, though, obviously, you do your ACL, the first one. What happened, and sort of how difficult is it for people who may not be familiar with what happens when you do an ACL to try and recover and then push towards another Olympics? Yeah,
so in Perisher, we were training on Topper's Dream just after our domestic season after the games, and I was working on speed and airs. I was skiing pretty well, but what let me down at the games particularly was my speed and my air package. So we're working on that, trying to go bigger. And I was coming into bottom air, and basically I just didn't hold my takeoff, which essentially was the problem. Did a backflip and landed a bit back seat, tried to pull out of the course and hit a mogul and my ACL tore, which was brutal. It was pretty devastating. I couldn't believe that I'd actually done it, because up until that point, I'd only had back injuries, and I was like, oh, that's just my thing. I'll just have back injuries. Like, that's going to be my lot in life in this sport. But yeah, tore that first ACL, and I couldn't believe it. I was devastated, but you just have to refocus and concentrate on that rehab, get the surgery, and just put everything you can into your rehab, so you can come back stronger and come back on course and be able to do what you can do without being scared of your knee and worried about hurting it again. So got in the gym, or got into surgery, fixed it all up. I tore my ACL and my meniscus, and got into rehab, and I was back on snow about 10 months later back in our domestic season. But even, once you're back on snow, even that's a tough ride because it takes a while to get back to your performance and back to how you can ski, just because you've been off snow and because you've had a pretty traumatic injury.
And I can imagine it's that mental aspect too of that first time on snow. Is there a little bit of a shit? Last time I did this kind of hurt. Is this going to be holding up all right? Did the surgeons put it all back together correctly?
Yeah, for sure. So we have a pretty lengthy return to sport program and protocol. So that definitely helps with trusting your knee again. In hindsight, I probably wish I used a sports psych more during that time, just to try and get my head right, because I was young and I was like, I'm good. I've got this. I was confident. I was like, I'm fine. Like, this isn't affecting me, but it was. It definitely was, but I just wasn't willing to acknowledge that. So yeah, once I got back on course, I was skiing okay, but I was not skiing how I should have been, which then affected my results. Overturning on one side, favoring my left leg, just little things that I was kind of cheating a little bit. So I could do stuff, but I had developed habits where I wasn't necessarily activating the muscles that I should have been, because I learned how to, I taught myself how to do the skill again, but I was doing it I was cheating a little bit. Just to do the skill rather than do it properly, which later down the track with my other injuries, we definitely really honed in on that and focused on it to make sure I wasn't doing that again.
And was that sort of an issue then in the lead up to 2018 that ultimately, unfortunately, you narrowly miss out on going to a second Olympics? And was a lot of that kind of based on what you're just talking about there?
Yeah, it was a mixture. So I definitely took a while to get back to my performance. Again, as I said with the sports psych, I thought I was fine, but I definitely wasn't. And leading into the first qualifying year, I had two events where coming into a bottom air, I'm not sure I don't know, maybe it was to do with the fact that I did my knee on a bottom air and I was scared, but whenever I was coming into a bottom air with speed, I would catch an edge, which I'd never done in my career before that. But two events leading in, I coming into speed into bottom air, and I just caught an inside edge and kind of just did a crappy jump, or one of them I just kind of rolled over the jump. And at the qualifying event at US selections, I caught an edge and did like a tilted backflip, which then affected my ability to qualify for World Cup for that first season, which then kind of set me back to try and qualify for the games, because I only had one season to try and do it, and 7 events in comparison to other people's 14 events. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I should have just skied better in those 7 events. That would have qualified me, but I didn't. So just is what it is.
You mentioned before about the goal of going to 3 Olympics. Obviously, missing out on that one holds that back a little bit, but as we always like to find out, in terms of a disappointment that comes in life, you can then use it as motivation for the next one. Was that straight away your thought, I've missed out on 2018, 2022 as a goal, or do you sort of take a little bit to reflect on things and think, well, do I have what it mentally takes to move to another Olympics? Because obviously it's a long time, 4 years to kind of commit to that.
Yeah, for sure. I think straight away, I mean, I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. That last event when it happened, I was like, okay, like, because obviously throughout the events, you might have a crappy event, you're like, okay, I've got the next one, like I can do this, like I've got this. I just need a top 12, like that's all I need to do. I just need a top 12. I just need to make finals, and then I'm that one step closer. But in that lead up to that games, I came 17th 3 times, and the top 16 goes to the finals. So it was pretty brutal, because I missed out. I tied with 16th at one of the events. Like I couldn't have been closer to that finals, but I just the luck just wasn't really on my side, and obviously I should have just performed better, but I didn't, and it was devastating. So that hit me. Luckily, my parents were at that final event, so I just got out of there. I wrote a message to my coaches, just thanking them and saying good luck for the games for the athletes that qualified, and went home and literally just sat in my room crying for about 2 weeks. So I just couldn't believe it happened. And after that, I wrote myself a little note. I was like, I never want to feel like this again. And I stuck it up on my wall. just as a reminder of how shit it felt, basically, and to motivate me to, keep training and try harder and not let other things affect me and start working with a sports psych and, just be better. And yeah, I set my sights on the world champs. That was the first stepping stone. I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the world champs next year. Again, it's only 4 girls can qualify for that. So that was my first goal. I was like, okay, pick yourself up, get back in the gym. Let's do this. Let's, do everything you can to qualify for that. And then from there was the Olympics.
Did you watch the Olympics? Can you pull yourself to still watch them? Because I can imagine as heartbroken as you are, it must be pretty tricky to see your teammates and people you've beaten and all that before competing where you want to be.
Yeah, it was definitely tricky at the start. When it first happened, I was like, I'm not watching. I'm going home. I'm just going to sit in my room. I'm closing myself off to the world. Screw this. But as it neared the games, it's a sport I love. So I was like, all right, get over yourself. The world is bigger than mogul skiing. You need to broaden your perspective and realize that it's a small aspect. It meant a lot to me, myself, but in terms of everything else going on in the world, it's it's sport. You do it for fun. You do it because you love it. So I wanted to support my teammates. So I turned on the TV and watched them and cheered them on. And it was exciting to watch, even though I wasn't there.
What happens then again between Pyeongchang and Beijing, again, just heartbreaking again to do it again. The ACL happens again and then and again. Which, do you just hate your knee? Do you just hate what the fuck, man? Come on, can you not do this after I've competed at the Olympics? Why do you keep doing this to me? Because I can't imagine just the absolute heartbreak that brings. As you said, not just once more, but twice more again. It happens just before Beijing. So, through all of that though, you still end up going to Beijing and going up on that start line, which I'll talk about in a second. But how do you recover from that? Sports psychs can do so much, but there's got to be some times there where it's just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah, definitely. Doing that second ACL. So I had a pretty good, the 2018 season was pretty good. I concussed myself pretty bad in Rooker, but I came back and did the world champs, which was incredible. I got 13th in the singles event, which was my best result to date. So that was pretty epic. But yeah, in the Australian season again, in the bottom section of Topper's Dream, I re-tore my right ACL, which at first they thought was just my MCL. Because I always had trouble with my first ACL afterwards. I always had pain. So we just thought it was my MCL. So I did all of the return to snow, all of the recovery. I passed everything with flying colors, went over to Zermatt, tried to ski moguls, and I don't know what it was. It kept flicking or clicking, and I was like, it hurt a lot. So we went back home, got an MRI, and we found out that my ACL had been tearing over the whole 5 years. So it was just every little thing was kind of tearing it that little bit more. And then that last crash was enough to partially tear it, which was enough to not be able to mogul ski. So went back into surgery, got that fixed up. Another summer at home, which was pretty brutal. But again, I was like, I've done it once before. I can do this. I can come back. And this time, hopefully the ACL sticks. It won't be re-tearing. And it was a much smoother recovery, which was really good from that knee. And I was with my sports psych at that stage, who really helped me get through it. And we're just taking it week by week. And I had my sights set on the games. And we came back from that ACL, and I was having a bit of pain at the end of the 2020, I don't even remember, one of the seasons. I was having a bit of pain in the top of my kneecap as I came back, and we found out that I'd actually worn through all the cartilage in that knee, and I was bone on bone. So I had this extensive bone bruising. My knee was in a pretty bad shape, and they told me, the doctors told me I'd never mogul ski again after that one. So they're like, it's pretty unlikely you'll get back in the bumps. You might do all this work, but we can't guarantee you'll be able to mogul ski, because in that deep range is where it hurt the most. But we just put a program together. We had just after I had 12 weeks off, we just incrementally brought in different exercises to ensure I wasn't bruising the bone again, just to make sure I was, to try and build a callus basically on the bone so it could handle a little bit more and a little bit more. And we did that all of 2020 and 2021. and eventually got back on snow last year in the domestic season. And again, I was doing, like, compared to my teammates, 10 runs a day, I was doing 4 or 5. So I had to do a lot less than everybody else. I wasn't allowed to hike jumps. I wasn't allowed to do a whole lot, but enough to ensure that I could ski a competition and ski well. So, and I had the experience. I had a lot of training under my belt. I knew I could do it. I just had to, my body just had to be in the right kind of frame to be able to actually produce my run, which I was lucky enough to do in Ruka and Sweden and Alpe d'Huez, but then come Tremblant, I blew my left ACL. So
I can't even imagine, like, the effort you're putting to kind of go towards that goal, and then it happens. I mean, how far out was that from Beijing that it happened again?
That was 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah.
Damn.
So this one, it was pretty brutal. All my other ACLs, I at least crashed, whereas this one, I literally just hit a turn. Nothing happened. I hit a turn and I knew straight away it tore, and I was like, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I just worked my butt off for the past 2 years, and with the sight set on Beijing, and it was, you know, within arm's reach, and I just hit a turn and it went, and I was like, okay, my knees really, they want me to finish up. Like,
Stop doing this, Taylah. Stop doing it.
Yeah, like, why are you still doing this to yourself? But yeah, I wasn't going to let it, you know, tear me down. I'd done it before. I'd skied with a partially torn ACL before. I knew if I just put the work in. This time I'd only done the ACL. So it was pretty, like, in terms of an injury, it was a pretty chill version of an ACL. Like, it wasn't too bad.
As a casual one. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't crash. There was nothing major. It was just the ACL tour. So we put a program together again, speaking to my sports psych. We had 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks to prove that I could do it, and 3 weeks to pass all of the medical clearance to be able to compete at the games. So I started a journal the day that I did it, just to document my time leading into the games, and to keep myself accountable, and to document what exercises I did, just in case, similar to my bone bruising, missing cartilage injury, just to see, like, what stage I was at. If I hurt it a little bit, like, how far back I had to go to restart. But I was really lucky. I mean, it went really well. I was back, you know, running, jumping, hopping. I could do everything. I could do single leg squats. I could squat. I could do everything. I was back on snow, had no issues on snow at the pre-Olympic camp. Like, everything was going really well. Passed medical, which I was really happy about, because, you know, you can't go unless you pass medical. And yeah, everything was going really, really well back on the course, back skiing, until I hit a mogul in Beijing and tore both meniscus and my MCL. So
wow.
That was kind of, yeah. After that, I bet I wanted to keep skiing, but that was, by that stage, it was too far gone.
Because you knew Beijing was your last games, right? You had all but confirmed that would be it. I was going to say, like, did they just put some, I don't know, gaffer tape on you to go, like, yeah, just go out there and do it? But because I remember watching it and obviously seeing you at the start gate, you know, you kind of just moved to the side a little bit, which, I mean, brave in itself to do that. I mean, how important was that for you to be able to just get up there at least? As you said before, you get to the start gate, you're an Olympian, this is your second Olympics, but how important was it for you to get to that start gate to just say that I at least started this event?
Yeah, I mean, it was important to me to do it. I think at the time, even still, like, I was one out. One of my friends from America, Olivia, she was one before me, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I was like, just get me home. Like, I don't want to push out the gate. I'm scared. Like, not scared to ski down, but more scared probably of people's reactions. And yeah, I was just like, oh, like, this sucks. Like, this is not what I wanted to do. This is not the performance that I know I can do. Obviously, skiing down the side of a course doesn't really show off all the bloody hours and hard training and everything that I'd been through. So it wasn't really ideal, but we sat down. I was grateful to the Australian Olympic Committee and Snow Australia and OWI and everybody who had supported me. And they were like, you know what, like, you've had a pretty tough run. Like, let's just make it worth it. Like, get back in the gate. Like, I was so close to competing, but it was just my knee tweaked at the wrong spot. Like, yeah, basically. So I just landed heavy on a left turn, and that was enough to do it, because moguls is it's a sport where it's pretty wild. You never know what's going to happen. You can try and dream for the perfect run. You can train all you want, but you never know what's going to happen in that run. You could just, land in the wrong spot or hit a turn wrong, or that's what makes it exciting. I think that's what makes the sport so amazing to watch. So yeah, just skiing down that run, I came off a right turn, hit the left turn a little bit too hard, and my knee kept twisting. Just really gross, but yeah, it just happened at the wrong time. But it is what it is, and I was happy just to be there and to at least watch my teammates go and try their best.
Well, I mean, I was going to say there was probably a bit of a happy ending then. At least you could go and cheer on Jakara to win the gold. So, I mean, that might have brought a bit of a smile to your face. But it did through all of that, I know it's so tough and everything, but did any part of you go, well, one more, maybe? I didn't quite fulfill kind of where I wanted to be. I don't want to do my fourth and my fifth ACL before Milan. But I mean, was there any part of you who was like, well, come on, this has got to happen. I've got to have at least one Olympics here where this isn't going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, part of me is, I think as time goes by, I'll be able to reflect back on my career and be happier with it. At the moment, I think it's a little bit too soon to be like, yeah, that was a good career. I think, in time I'll look back and be really happy I pushed out that gate. But right now it's a little bit close and a bit too soon. And honestly, if I kept going, my body probably would have just kept giving up on me. I think it was pretty done with the sport. I going to need a knee replacement soon. It was pretty brutal, but yeah, reflecting back on it, I mean, I reached out to Phil Marquis, who in 2018 did his knee in a pretty similar time frame to me. And I reached out to him just to see his perspective on how he did it in 2018 and how he got to the games and competed. And that really helped me. And yeah, I think I just was, that 3 weeks, I just had to put all my effort in. And then after that, I was done. I knew I was done.
I think it's inspiring enough, though, Taylah, for you to be able to do that and turn around. And no matter what happens from now on, you're always going to be a two-time Olympian. And as I said, you finish at top 20 at Olympics. So, that's going to be something that you can always have. In terms of now that you've sort of hung up the skis, recovery, is it a different type of surgery or a different type of recovery process when you're not rushing back to get on the slopes? Is it just sort of more of a take your time a little bit now rather than going, hey, shit, hurry up, I've got to get on my skis now?
Yeah, so we got straight into surgery as soon as I got home from the games. A week later, I was in surgery getting it fixed. In terms of recovery, it's pretty similar. It's just not as, I wouldn't say rushed. I'm just not, I'm not trying to be a mogul skier. I'm not trying to get back to the top of elite sport. So I can take my time a little bit more. Usually would be trying to get back on snow probably by the end of domestic season or by overseas, whereas I'm not going to be back on snow until next year, July. So we have some time up our sleeves, which is different to my other ACLs, and everything else is pretty much the same. I want to be able to do everything. So I'm really lucky. I have the support of the New South Wales Institute of Sport, Snow Australia, OWI. So they're helping me through this recovery and to get me back to full strength and full health. So yeah, I'm just in the gym doing my rehab, doing my recovery, and by the end of it, I want to be able to ski. I want to be able to ski moguls still if I want to, and jump off jumps and do whatever I want. So I want to get that knee back to the best it can be.
Is it a case of when you end up going to the hospital, back again, and then is it get 3 ACLs, get a 4th free or something like that?
Yeah, the surgeon knows me pretty well now. And actually 2 of my sisters did their knees this domestic season. So wow. In my family, there's been, out of the 5 kids, there's now been 9 ACLs. 9
ACLs. Holy crap. This is like an O'Neill tradition. This is
seriously, it's not good. Yeah.
Wow. I'd almost say, as somebody who likes, nice even numbers, I'm like, go for 10, but this isn't something you want to go for 10. No, don't. Please don't.
Yeah, I mean, to get through 20 years of mogul skiing, I did all right to just do 3, considering my other siblings have all done them too, just skiing. But yeah.
That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Which, just moving forward in the sport, obviously, Jakara, winning the gold. I mean, do you think it's going to have a similar flow-on effect for female moguls, sort of what Dale's did back in 2006? Like, are you seeing this, you've just said been to the national championships. Have you got more young girls strapping on the skis wanting to give this a try?
100%. I think, Jakara and Britt, I think they've been great role models for the sport. I think our team as a whole, what we have set up, what our coaches have created has been a really strong team of people who work hard, people who have been injured and come back. We kind of have all of the storylines that you could have in elite sport. You know, you have your gold medalist, you have Britt, who's been world champ and the best in the world. You have me, who's been constantly injured. You have, all these different types of people who have had all these different types of careers. And I think that's a really, for someone younger, I think that's a really good thing to be able to see. And all of us have still gone and competed, and all of us have still achieved, maybe not what we wanted to achieve, but we still have had some pretty incredible careers. So I think for those younger girls, they have a pretty good, a good system that they're growing up into. They have people to look up to. They have people who are going to support them. And I think that's really important in the sport. And if something goes wrong, they can always reach out to me or reach out to someone else in the team who has been through those similar experiences and help them along, which is, again, important because we didn't necessarily have that. We had, Manuela growing up, but that was our only female mogul skier to really look up to. So to have a whole team there, I think it's really exciting, and I'm excited to see what happens with the sport.
Well, I'm definitely excited too, because one thing I'll say for moguls is if my calculations are correct, moguls is equal for most successful discipline at the Olympics for Australia alongside aerials. Mm-hmm. If you take into account men's and women's. I know snowboarding, we've had more medalists, but not from the same discipline, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So we've got to beat the aerials, right? So come Milan, Jakara, Matt, yourself coming out of retirement, anybody, we've got to get that fourth medal. And I'm not wishing that the aerials team don't get a medal in the men's and women's, and let's get one medal in the aerials in Milan. So, because it needs to be the number one sport, right? When you have moguls as our most successful discipline at a Winter Olympics. Yeah,
we're pretty close with the aerial team, so it's nice to see them succeed as well. But I think what we've created in Australian mogul skiing is very strong, and I think we have a pretty bright future ahead. To have the 8 athletes, 4 girls, 4 boys in Olympic Games, I think that's incredible from a small country like Australia. And we're out there doing well. We're not out there just participating. Like, we're actually, at the top of the podium. We won the Olympic Games, which I think is it's a testament to the sport. It's a testament to what our coaches and what the everyone has done in this sport. So I think it's really incredible to see.
2 quick things before we wrap up with a set of get to know you style questions. The first one, I've never asked this question before to an Australian mogul skier. Does the Australian moguls team have a nickname? Like, I know you've got the Flying Kangaroos in aerials, and we like to nickname our sporting teams, but does the moguls team have a nickname?
No, we don't. It's just, on Instagram, it's just Oz Mogul Team. Pretty simple.
Can I suggest one? One for you? What about the Bumperoos? I think that would work. Or the Mogul Roos. Like, you've got to have some sort of Roo connection. But I think the Bumperoos sounds great.
Bumperoos. I'll bring it up with the team. I'll see how we go. We'll have a little poll.
The merch out there, kind of, you could be selling 100%. This out there, Bumperoos has got such a great ring to it, Yeah,
that would be good. If we could get a name and get ourselves out there a bit more, it'd be great to have some more Australians supporting winter sports. So that would be really cool. Yeah.
Every Olympics, you think about it, like when, the men's basketball team wins a medal, it's the Boomers, or the Opals winner in the women's, the Stingers, the Sharks in water polo, Hockey Roos, Kookaburra, they've all got names. And I think it's only the Flying Kangaroos. I know in ice hockey we're the Mighty Roos, but we're obviously not really going to make the Olympics probably anytime soon in ice hockey. But I think this needs to be a winter sport thing. The Flying Kangaroos can't be the only name of an Olympic winter team. So Bumperoos, take it on board, Taylah. Come on. Okay. Make it happen. Bumperoos, I like it.
Now, see what they think.
Good. All right. The other question I want to ask you too, just sort of your post moguls career and sort of what you've been involved in. I believe you were involved a bit with the AOC in terms of sort of doing some work for them. And the thing that I liked seeing here that you did for Tokyo, you helped write a bunch of the bios on the website, which thank you. They're very handy for research when it comes to interviewing Olympic athletes. So how's that experience, sitting down and having to research and write a couple of hundred athlete bios for an Olympic Games?
It was really good. I interned with the AOC just throughout some of my injuries, and I was lucky enough they contacted me just before Tokyo and they needed a content writer, and I was like, sweet, yeah, I'll do it. That sounds good. I'll do it like in between my training sessions and after training. And there's a lot of people in the Summer Olympic team compared to the Winter Olympic team.
Just a few.
Like 500 people, and we have like 30. So it was a lot of bios. I didn't necessarily write all of them. Some of them, we had some other interns and some other people writing, and I just had to get them up on the website and add the photos and do all that bit. But I was really lucky. I got to actually interview some athletes, which was really exciting to be able to talk to them and their experience and write about them. And the same leading into Beijing, I was actually kept on up until the first World Cup last year. So up until Ruka, I was interviewing and writing the bios for the winter athletes, like the athletes going to Beijing that had pretty much pre-qualified from the season before. I wrote all of their bios. So like, Matt Brody from my team, Danny Scott.
Did you write yours? Did you do your own bio?
No, I didn't write my own.
That would have been fun.
Yeah.
Taylah is a legend. She's the greatest Olympian of all time.
Yeah, well, I said to Jakara, I'm like, you better be nice to me. I get to write your bio. So.
Jakara sucks. She has no chance at an Olympic medal. She also snores.
Yeah, as my roommate. Yeah, but yeah, no, it was really cool. So I got to interview a bunch of athletes as well and write some stories about them. And I really enjoyed writing about athletes who didn't necessarily have the hype around them or get a mention, because you have your star athletes, and then everybody trains just as hard. Everyone's going to the Olympics, so everyone deserves to have their story told as well, I think. So it was great to be able to write those stories and get them out there leading into the games.
Fantastic. And is that sort of now post-skiing career, that's kind of what you're further pursuing, that type of work and that type of career?
No, so I did a Bachelor of Media in PR and Advertising, and I had done a few internships in PR as well during my injuries. So just after the games, I did an internship at the start of last year during my weird knee injury. I don't even know what to call it, that injury, the cartilage injury. And I got an email just after the games, and they had a position for me, which was really great. They had followed me through the whole journey and watched me at the games, and reached out afterwards and offered me a position. So I'm still there at the moment. It's called History Will Be Kind. It's a PR agency in Surrey Hills, which has been really great. Yeah, so it's just a lifestyle consumer agency, and it's been really great. It's been a great transition. They've been really supportive during that transition, and yeah, the first week in annual leave, which is wild.
Exciting
so
times.
Full-time working still now.
Yeah, you always make the most of that. Fantastic. Yeah. Taylah, we wrap up all our chats with a fun get to know you style question. There's always questionnaire given to Canadian athletes ahead of Pyeongchang and Rio. And given you're a mogul skier, I have to use a questionnaire that was given to the GOAT, Mr. Mikhail Kingsbury. So not sure if there's any of these answers here that we can compare to yours, but let's give this a go. Your favourite Olympic moment of all time is?
Oh, my favourite Olympic moment.
Please say Dale. Please say Dale. Please say.
My favourite Olympic moment was probably watching Britt Cox push out the gate in 2010. I'd been skiing with her since I was a kid. She's one of my best friends. So that was really exciting to watch. And every time I hear the song that played during her Olympic run, like it just brings me back to that memory.
What was the song? What song was it?
It was Kids by MGMT.
Yep.
It was actually quite suitable because she was only 15, so quite a suitable song. But yeah, so that was probably my very favourite Olympic moment. Otherwise, I mean, probably pushing out the gate at my own Olympics. That was pretty sick.
You're allowed to answer your own. Which it's funny actually. I recently went back, as the Olympic nerd that I am. I keep a lot of footage from past Olympics, and I recently went back and watched some of the Vancouver coverage, and there was an interview with her and Scotty James, who I think were both 15 at the time, weren't they? And it was insane to just see, a little fresh-faced Brit, little fresh-faced Scotty, being interviewed. It was interesting to kind of see what they would both go on to be. So, that's insane. I want to actually just mention, I mentioned this to Brody, that during our coverage of Beijing, we had our daily athlete of the day, and we did name it the Daily Dale this year. So we actually got a little Dale Begg-Smith face and put it on like a little ribbon. So just striving towards your teammates going towards Milan that potentially, a medal's nice, but the Daily Dale might be more prestigious.
Yeah, 100%. That's where you want to be.
That's what you want. And the Bumperoos would love to win the Daily Dale. It's named after a legend of their own.
Can you
sport,
win as a team though? That would be the best. I think we were the best team over there, obviously, but
I think you can. We did give it to a couple of teams, so I'm liking this, Taylah. Yes, you can. I'll declare it now on Off the Podium ahead of the Milan Olympics in a few years that will be allowed. So okay, I like that. As a kid, who was your favourite sports team?
Sports team. Oh,
the Bumperoos. Hey,
the Australian Moguls team was pretty sweet. I don't know. I've never actually played a team sport in my life. So I've only ever done individual sports, which is pretty wild. If I could choose a person, it was Tora Bright. She was who I looked up to. I thought she was epic. But sports team, I have no idea.
Didn't sort of have a family footy team that was kind of forced down your throat or sort of something?
Not really.
Like that?
My brother is pretty big into footy, but I never really got into it that much. He goes for the Dragons. But
okay.
Yeah, no, I'm more individual. So Tora Bright was my favourite.
Do you bump shoulders much with her in Sochi? Kind of obviously being a smallish team, do you sort of get to experience her a bit?
Yeah, I did. It was really cool. So she was obviously in the same village as us, and after she won the silver medal, we had a silver medal party, which was really cool. And I was pretty excited to be on the same team as her and to be able to experience the Olympics with someone who, one of our most successful Olympians.
Equal. Her and Dale. Yeah.
Successful. Exactly. So it was pretty awesome to be there.
Fantastic. If you could be any superhero, who would you be?
Superhero. I've always wanted to fly. That was my dream as a kid. That's how I actually broke my arm. I tried to fly off my sister's bed. So probably Superman, because he can fly. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't think Superman ever did an ACL, so that could also help.
No, keep my legs off the floor. That would be.
Just don't put the arms out when you land.
Yeah.
So, yes. If you could be an Olympian in any sport besides your own, what would it be?
I would probably do maybe gymnastics or now surfing. Surfing would be pretty cool. I can't surf. I'm terrified of the ocean, which but it would be a pretty cool sport to be good at it.
You need to overcome that fear if you ever did switch professions.
I'll stick to like urban surf where it's just a pool. Yeah, it's better.
One of those wave sort of things. I was going to say, 10 years to Brisbane, you've got plenty of time to train, right?
Yeah.
Home Olympics, dangle that in front of you. Who are your favourite music artists?
Favorite music artists? I wouldn't say I have like a favorite. Depending on my mood, I change what I listen to. I listen to a lot of what my parents listen to just because it's old school and I like it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, right now, probably like Harry Styles or something like that, just because everyone loves Harry Styles. So
who doesn't love Harry? Come on. And he's also just, the thing about Harry is like every movie you watch now, he just kind of pops up in it as well. It's just like not only can he sing, he acts, he's a good looking rooster. This guy's got it all, right? Like,
all rounder. That's what you want.
Harry. Because he's good at mogul skiing. Have you ever,
I don't know.
Probably bloody would be.
Once I can give him a lesson, so if he comes out.
There you go. He's a big listener to the show, actually, Tessa. I'm sure he's listening right now. He wants to join the Bumperoos. Harry Styles on the Bumperoos. Get on board, Harry. There you go. If you could eat only one food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
It would be porridge. Uncle Toby's oats. I'm obsessed. I eat it every day. I would have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner if I could.
We had this conversation beforehand, and you got me excited for it. You did.
Obsessed.
You did indeed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Otherwise,
I remember. I was going to say, remember as a kid, you had all the different flavors. Like you could get like, I don't know,
honey.
like fruit and nut and whatever they had. Like, are you just do you just go over the plain, or do you spice it up every now and then with some flavors?
No, I'm pretty much just plain. Just your rolled oats. Classic. Yep. It's
simple.
Good. Yeah.
Good food porridge. Yeah, geez. Your favorite place to compete is or was?
Yeah, so my very favorite World Cup was the Deer Valley World Cup. You probably have heard that from every single mogul
Pretty
ski.
much everyone. Mikhail's answered it. I think Brody answered it. I mean, this is just, I've got to get to Deer Valley. It sounds like obviously a pretty epic place.
Yeah, no, it's the biggest World Cup on the tour. So you have like a massive crowd, which is epic. You have the big screen. The course is insane. Like it's the best course in the world. And you stay in some pretty legit accommodation. Everything about it is awesome. And that's usually where our families come and watch because it is the best event. So they come and watch that as well, which is always really nice to have some Aussie supporters in the crowd.
Utah, great for winter sports, obviously Salt Lake Olympics, and potentially could have another one in another 10 to 12 years. So, great place. Your favourite thing to do in summer is?
Favourite thing to do in summer? Probably just go to the beach. Not get in the water, of course, because...
Yeah, you're afraid of that. No, not going out there.
But yeah, go to the beach, go for some hikes, and just spend time with family, really. Yeah.
Which I guess when you're competing, you barely see summer, right? So you make the most of it when you can.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I'm just going to be home all the time, so...
It works a treat. Last one for you today, Taylah. Your favourite cartoon to watch growing up was?
Cartoon? Oh, it's probably The Simpsons. Loved
Great
it.
Answer.
Yeah.
Do you still watch it? Like, I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one in this planet who still watches the damn show.
No, my nephews actually are super into it at the moment, though. They always put it on when they come to my house, or my parents' house. But yeah, I haven't watched it in years, but I loved it growing up.
Look, it's not good anymore. I will say that. It's not like it used to be. But like the thing that I don't like giving up on things, and I know that, you know, at some point soon they're going to be like, The Simpsons is over. This is the last season. And then everybody's going to start watching it again. So like, I want to say, like, I never gave up. I was there the whole run, 40 odd seasons, and just be like, boom, here it is. Because like, again, you get maybe one episode a season where you're like, okay, that's kind of funny. The rest of the time you get 2 minutes in, you're probably on your phone and, you know, wondering what you're doing for the weekend. But classic Simpsons, you can't beat it. Like,
it's great. It's so good. Yeah.
So quotable. Like, do you ever quote The Simpsons when you're competing? Like, you can quote Simpsons in life anywhere, basically.
Not so much. Probably, I mean, it might pop out of me here and there, but...
Every time you did your ACL, was it a dope?
Yeah. Definitely. So frustrating.
Not here to joke about that, Taylah. We've got it out of my system now, right? Like, it helps.
It's all
comedy.
Good. That's what I did for the whole 3 weeks leading into the games. I think Jakara was getting a little, she's like, I was like, I might just start crying at some stage, but at the moment I'm just going to keep talking shit. She's like, okay. Like, she got on board too, which was good.
It helped her, all right. There you go. See, thanks, Taylah, for helping me win a gold medal. That's the words that should have been coming out of her mouth. Like, come on, I'm grateful.
Not so much.
Anthony.
I think it was all her. She definitely deserves that gold medal.
Taylah, before we let you go, if people want to stay up to date with what you're doing in life, social media, anywhere that people can follow you. Instagram. I think it's just at Taylah O'Neill. And I mean, I have an athlete page on Facebook, but I don't post on it ever. So not worthwhile going to that. Instagram's probably the place to be. Until the official announcement of the Bumperoos. That's when you could launch it on your page.
Maybe, I could just do the PR for them. Ready to roll.
Do. I'm seeing the T-shirts, the hats. You could have just like a lumpy kangaroo that's like on the hat, or just call yourself like the Begg-Smith-aroos. Like the Dale-aroos, like, I don't know, like that, the Jakara-roos, the Brita-roos. I'm trying to just think of how you can sort of do this, but no, I'm stipping. If it's not official, from now on, I'm calling you guys a Bumperoos. It's sticking on this show. I'm saying that right now.
Work on it leading into Milan. Get all the merch.
Please do. Taylah, it's been such a pleasure talking to you today on the show, learning about everything and your great career and inspirational stuff to sort of get to that third Olympics or second Olympics and everything else in between. But thank you so much for your time and off the podium. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today.
Thanks so much. It was great.